So the European Commission is here represented by Anjan, my colleague, and myself, and we give a lot of importance to this meeting, which we find very rich in terms of the topic that is being addressed and the context, international context. And as you know, the Commission, thank you. So as you know, the Commission, to make the presentation. Thank you. Okay, so fine. So the European Commission is an institution that has a few roles. One is a policy-making role and also a funder of research. So we are very much interested in the topics that are addressed today. Open science as a policy for research and education in Europe. Sharing e-infrastructures because we come from that angle of Horizon 2020, and of course sharing knowledge because it's all about global partnerships in science that we would like to be part of. So I will briefly, so first of all, welcome to Europe, a very warm welcome to all of you, in particular those that are visiting Europe. We are very happy to have you here today with us. So I would like to touch upon three points. I know that the agenda is really very rich, and these are in fact open science, the infrastructure as an important element to support the policy of open science, and then a few ideas, and then I think Anjan during the panel will give you more food for thought on how to work together in certain areas. So about open science. What I want to say here with this introduction is that research infrastructures have been always an important aspect of research, of the research endeavor, and people like Bertrand Russell already was foreseeing that research would move into very demanding in terms of challenge, in terms of investments in expensive apparatus. So this gives me a little bit the context to tell you where we come from. We are in a unit of funding e-infrastructures that you know well, but we are part of the bigger picture of research infrastructures in Europe. So to support the development of these sometimes difficult investments in high quality scientific infrastructures. And e-infrastructure, so information and communication technologies, are a big part or an important part of it. So the message we pass is that research infrastructures have evolved. These expensive apparatus have a lot of hardware, but the information and communication technology component is becoming more and more relevant. And so the computing part and the data part are more and more an essential element, and actually an expensive element of the investments in research infrastructures. And it's very much related with the scientific activity in the sense that the computers, the software, and the data are elements of the so-called data and computing intensive science that we are promoting in the context as well of open science. The point is actually, why do we have in Europe a context of open science and the policy context that we are trying to pass and agree with the member states in terms of the framework conditions to work in this new era of science? Is that, in fact, one of the elements, key elements to produce trusted results in science is actually the ability to communicate the results in a trusted way. So opening up the data and the scientific software and connecting the people in a way that they can exchange and verify the results of science, which most of them are built up by mistakes that are corrected. So these self-correcting characteristics of the scientific activity leads the Commission to propose already in 2012, means that we started working some years before that, a framework that leads to the essential elements of open science. And I would summarize them in three aspects. One is, in fact, open scientific content, meaning publications and scientific data, at least the publicly funded scientific data. The other component is open infrastructure, so widening and making the access to resources such as computing resources, network resources, more easier and more user-friendly. And the third component is the so-called open culture, which is more a societal issue than a technological one, but is an essential one. And it's very difficult to impose behaviors on people, so in this sense, the European policy is all about trying to capture the best practices in the scientific communities and promote them. So, still in the context of the European involvement in the framework for open science, the 5 principles discussed in the context of the G8 plus 06 outreach countries were give an interesting starting point for what we call the open research data, principles, so the 5 principles. And these are basically in the spirit of if the taxpayer or the public already are funding research, data should in principle be discoverable, accessible, understandable and accessible, so that you build trust, manageable in terms of, for instance, preservation, and then also supported by workforce that really understands the issues which are very specific to big data and to research data in this digital science context. So these 5 principles are a good starting point for all of us to have something to discuss on the table about how to go forward in terms of open science requirements. Now, this is a brief welcome, so it's just a snapshot. I'm sure these discussions will be much more, with much more interesting things to discuss. But anyway, so the point is, for open science without the good infrastructures, sustained open infrastructures don't really make sense. And as again, our context is data and computing intensive science. And so, as you know, because you know more or less what we have been doing, we have been supporting all these layers of infrastructures. The network, with your support for sure, the global connectivity of the high-speed network for research and education. It's an important, without which you can't really do the other layers. Then the high-performance computing and distributed computing resources in Europe and also at global level, so that communities can really share resources that are usually expensive and not easy to access. And then finally, the most recent one is actually the scientific data infrastructure. And with this picture, we try to show, to make it evident that it's really about very different types of data. There is no such thing like one size fits all and all data is equal. We have really touched the data that is very close to what the scientists in a specific field are able to understand and to work with. So it's not it has a different set of problems like from the other layers, so to say, of infrastructures. Now, the other interesting thing what I want to show you is this quite complex picture of so many funded projects in FP7, so the program that we have just finalized last year, or we are finalizing. And this gives an idea of how different constituencies are using our infrastructures and trying to do science in their specific field. Now, this, from a funding perspective, is a difficult problem to solve, because what we are supposed to do is to try to get these layers reusable across disciplines and across domains. So the question is how to try to get these resources set in a way that users can see the services in a in an easy way to use. So these are just a few things, but now about working together. So in the last couple of years, something new in the landscape of collaboration happened, and I'm talking about the Research Data Alliance, which is a community-led initiative that the Commission is looking with a lot of interest, and other funders, not only Europe, is looking, it's a global initiative. We are looking with a lot of interest to this forum, because it is really a community bottom-up exercise where the communities come and discuss what they want to do about all the layers of infrastructures, but of course with a focus on research data. And in the room here there are some of the minds that started the RDA and know much more than I do. But this is a very interesting development for this community, Chain Reds, and the communities involved at global level to discuss some issues related with infrastructure and the data-intensive science. In Europe, we have been supporting RDA through a funded project to support logistics and the setup, but actually it cuts across the whole infrastructure program. This is a recent deliverable of the RDA Europe project. It's a report, the data harvest, and which is an interesting point for reflection, puts forward some interesting points for us all to reflect. And one in particular, which is the first recommendation, is how to develop a data management plan and why should we be interested in doing so. So the European Commission started in Horizon 2020 the open data pilot, research data pilot. And one of the things in this pilot is that we ask all funded projects to deliver in the first 6 months of their life, so to say, a data management plan. So a data management plan should help us learning about what are the communities doing with their data and not imposing anything. It's just a tool. And some member states in Europe have already adopted DMPs before the Commission program, so it's not really something invented by the Commission. But the DMPs are not supposed to be red tape or to be more bureaucracy on top of the researchers who have their time dedicated to the research. It's just a management tool and should be done by those that really are dealing with things related with research data, even after the lifetime, for instance, of the research project. Like, for instance, preserving the data that is needed for future reuse so that you can verify some experiments or some scientific claims. So a data management plan is a way to start, let's say, inverted commas, a sharing platform for data, for research data. And so one of the challenges would be, why don't we work together on a universal data management plan? So we have the Horizon 2020, the member states have their own national data management plan strategies. Why don't we converge globally to a data management plan? And we have to start somewhere. We are at the beginning, so it's a good time to start. And what would this data management plan mean? So the core of this onion would be the minimal data management plan that we would ask all researchers to try, or organizations to try to have. And so we would know who really has interesting data, even if it is not open, that we could say, oh, I think you have this data, could you please share it with me? And then the dialogue starts. I may say, well, this data is not yet open because I'm doing some discovery myself, but I will open in 2 months, but at least the dialogue starts about sharing. So it's not imposing any kind of openness, because there are fields where actually openness is not the default, like privacy sensitive data, but still the data management plan would allow this. And the idea would be then to reply to the requirements of the 5 principles. So we should ask the research community, are you, when you collect data, thinking about how you are going to make this data discoverable, so that at least I know that it exists, so I can call you and ask you if you allow me to use your data set to a similar experiment, of course giving the credits to what you did. So this would be a way to work together. Just an idea. The other thing I would like to say is that we, and Anjan will say something more about it, we have just now Alexander was saying that you are at the end of the line, but I think you are at the beginning of something else, because we are already thinking about the work program 16-17, and it's early days. We are still discussing this with the member states to be adopted in September, October. So the e-infrastructure work program is the tool, one of the tools we have in Europe to set up partnerships and to work together. So I just wanted to inform you about that. We are working hard in setting the framework for the calls in 16 and 17. And basically, we will continue supporting the e-infrastructure as an important part of the European research landscape. And in the e-infrastructure part of the program, we will have activities leading to the integration and consolidation of infrastructure platforms at national level or disciplinary level, but that they become integrated so they are more sustainable. We will try to support prototyping of new services to build the capacity we will need in the coming 5 to 10 years. And then we will have also an area of support to policies and international cooperation. So, and thank you and welcome to Brussels.